The Black Ops 7 Warzone integration drops tomorrow. To say the least, I'm worried. Is it gonna be enough to bring back everyone that left, or is it too little, too late? To say the least, in the last 6 months, Warzone's been all over the place, and with the release of Black Ops 7, it seems like it's almost unplayable because at certain times of the day, there's literally no one online to play against, especially with casuals being so popular. So today, we're gonna be taking a look at a video by Tdawgsmitty, the man, the myth himself. COD is back. Call of Duty is back, guy. And I met him, by the way, whenever I went to COD Next, and he liked Black Ops 7. I liked Black Ops 7. It was a good, fun game. But you know what happened is the game came out and things are a little weird. And now with Warzone dropping, it could get weirder. So we're going to dive straight in and see what he has to say about it. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff along the way. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I actually can't believe that I'm gonna say this or make this video, but it's another day, another rant, and
it's so interesting actually that he's saying this right now, because if you go to his channel, the last like 10 videos he's posted have all been incredibly negative about Call of Duty. Again, this is the guy that you see memes of all over the internet that says Call of Duty is back, COD is back. This is him. So him dropping 10 bad videos about Call of Duty is not a good thing, guys. It's not a good thing. And I am incredibly nervous about how tomorrow is going to go with this integration, because I said it to the developers and I'm going to say it now. What we're getting with Verdansk is not enough, and Haven's Hollow is not enough either.
I really was thinking about this over the past weekend, and honestly, this is a bit shocking for me, and honestly, you're gonna see where I'm going with this by the end of the video, and I'm probably gonna bring up a game or two that you either have not played in a long time, you either hate it, or you're just kind of indifferent to, you don't really care.
You know, it's actually really interesting. Speaking of Tdawgsmitty, if you've never watched his videos, hold on, I'm just gonna click. If you've never watched his videos, a lot of the time he actually goes back and plays the older Call of Duty. So he should have a good grasp on whether or not people are looking at games through rose-tinted glasses, or if the game is actually good or bad. So whenever I see T-Dog talking, I actually trust whenever he has like a solid, real opinion instead of like memeing and saying Call of Duty is back. Because if you didn't know, T-Dog was on my team whenever we were playing at COD Next. And he was there whenever we played Verdansk. He was there whenever we played multiplayer. He was there whenever we played Haven's Hollow. We played all of these modes together, and of course, he was hyping things up because he is the COD is back guy. But after that all happened, we had a conversation after about whether or not we thought it was good. And it's like, the game is good. But again, like I said in the intro, is it too little too late? So I'm hoping, based on what he's saying here about how he's going to bring up old games, maybe he talks about some of the older titles and the way that this relates to the current Call of Duty. Hey there, Editor Expel here. We're getting dangerously close to 450,000 subscribers on the channel, so I would love it if you'd help out by making sure you have subscribed. Anytime now. Okay, thanks.
But you gotta let me cook here and let me explain my thought process with everything, and you'll see how I tie it into Call of Duty very soon. But I've kind of been looking around the gaming landscape here lately, and just been looking at other games, because we all know right now Call of Duty in terms of player base is lower, and the overall interest and fatigue of the game has definitely hit a point. I mean, I'm thinking maybe to the IW era, but honestly,
now I'm going to take note here. He did mention that the amount of players that are playing Call of Duty is a little bit lower, and what I want to recognize here, this is not me being a COD shill. This is just me being a realist, because I constantly look at the data about stuff like this. Call of Duty is like number one, number two, pretty much all the time on console, but console are usually the less vocal people. And I'm pretty sure it's less often that PC players will end up in lobbies with console players, which is why it will seem, for like a creator's perspective, a little bit exacerbated, because with Steam, it's completely off the wall. Those numbers mean nothing. We've seen it time and time again. You can see the Steam charts versus the console charts whenever it comes to Call of Duty, and literally Call of Duty sits at the top on all console charts, and then on Steam, it's not even on the chart. It's dead ass not even on there. Like, it doesn't matter. On PC, people play it on Battle.net, people play it on the Xbox app, but Steam is just not the app. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that if you actually play on Steam, you lose a ton of frames per second. So PC players are aware of that. They're usually a little bit more in tune with what's going on with their computer. And if the game's running bad, they're not going to play it on that app. It just, like, if you're going to play it, you're going to play it on the app that it was meant for, which is Battle.net. At this point, if you have Steam, you probably have Battle.net. You probably have the EA launcher or whatever it is. Like, you probably have all of these, like the Ubisoft launcher and all those things. So keep in mind that when it comes to the numbers of where people are, console, people that are less vocal in, you know, the community, that's where most of the players are. And people like me, they're often not going to play against the more casual players. Now, I'm curious to see how this shifts with open matchmaking that we're going to see introduced into Warzone, but I just wanted to take note of this because people often misquote whether or not players are on this or that platform.
If I'm being truthful, I feel like this might be the
Oh, sorry, not to say that the numbers aren't down, because the numbers are down, absolutely.
lowest point we've ever experienced as a Call of Duty fan, a creator. Hey, good time to create Call of Duty content, guys. I really made it there. But anyway, so I've been looking around, and there's obviously been 2 games in the last week that have just been absolutely crushing it. One of these I kind of just caught up with because I haven't been paying too close attention to it lately, but let me bring these 2 games up to you now, and it's Fortnite and it's Arc Raiders.
Now, Fortnite just dropped their season 7, and I watched the event. Axel sent me, you know, hey, they're doing this in this amount of time. But with the event that Fortnite dropped, if you don't know, they had like 10 million players, 10 million active players. That's crazy. That is insane. Like, to compare that to Call of Duty, it's like 5 times what we see in Call of Duty. Like, it's way above peak numbers for Call of Duty. And it's wild because, you know, you assume that the people that are on Fortnite are going to be kids, but in reality, these events, they happen like midday, and a lot of these kids are going to be at school and stuff like that. So the people that are playing this are grown-ass adults. It's just a fun game to play because there's all kinds of different collabs, but the collabs fit within the universe of Fortnite. That's the whole idea, which is not something that you see in Call of Duty. I am tired of Call of Duty being like, look at Nicki Minaj's ass cheeks right now. I want you to look at her tig old bitties. You're going to love this. She's going to shoot people in a video game. It's stupid. It is so dumb. The collaborations do not make sense. It's so easy to make them make sense. Also, weren't we supposed to get a Scream collaboration again this year for Halloween? Like, stuff like that makes sense. But then you see stuff like King Kong versus Godzilla whenever we saw it in Caldera, and like, it's a big thing, but it was dog shit. That event was terrible. It was cool that they had the idea to put it in, but then all you see is them fighting the whole time. It doesn't affect anything throughout the match that you can do. So all these collaborations in these big events that Call of Duty does versus these other games like Fortnite, it's terrible. It is the bar is so like low for Call of Duty that they just don't even do it. And I know a lot of it comes down to money and like whether or not it even makes anything for them, but these events are, in my opinion, worth it if you want to drive hype for the game instead of just focusing on forced retention with what you get with like things like weapons taking forever to level up, having like master prestige with like 1,000 levels, having all of these camos that you grind to unlock. And I love the idea of having the ability to grind, but a forced grind is not good. Another cool thing, like obviously he's talking about Arc Raiders here. Like this game, it builds story like we've never seen before. I don't think we've seen a game that allows story building to happen like Arc Raiders, and that's why we're seeing it pop off so much. It's the biggest game in the world right now, obviously, aside from Fortnite doing their Season 7 thing. It's the biggest game in the world right now because of how they can build story, connect a community, and everyone is happy to be there together. That's what's so freaking cool about it. But either way, let's keep
now
going.
Before you click off the video, trust me. I'm going to explain my thought process here. If you're like me, you haven't played Fortnite in a very long time. Some of you maybe never even played this game, but I was a massive fan when it was first coming out, 2017. I remember downloading this game I don't even know why I did it.
I actually played season 1 and I played it for about, I think, a year, like very seriously every night. I had a blast on Fortnite. Fortnite's the reason that I was able to go full time on Call of Duty, is because my dad told me, hey, I know you like battle royales, you should try out Blackout. So I have a deep love for Fortnite, even if people don't love the way that it looks or the way that it plays or whatever. I love what they do, which is focusing on community first. That is the biggest thing for me. They create large spectacles that the community can be a part of, and the Call of Duty engine in itself doesn't really allow for that. That's why we don't see a lot of these events that Fortnite gets, is because Call of Duty doesn't even let you do it because their engine is so dog shit.
I was in the era of, like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I was the first person to download this, but I downloaded it very early, I think just because it was free to play, it was colorful, it was like this new mechanic of building, and absolutely fell in love with it. Like, I played Fortnite super heavy from 2017 to probably till Warzone came out, and just absolutely loved it. And I really checked out of that world. Didn't really like how the game became all about collabs, and didn't really like the new seasons, how they changed certain things, and it became kind of like a Roblox clone with, if you go to the main menu, you just see like a bunch of games. And again, it's just not for me at this point in time.
I think a lot of that does come down to identity and whether or not you lose yourself. If you don't know this, a few years back, I really put a big focus on creating high quality content. And now, you know, it kind of trickles into what I do now, where everything's 4K, everything's very crisp and beautiful. But I was making stuff like people had not seen in the Call of Duty space. My Warzone Bootcamp series was incredible. We did such a good job on that, but you kind of lose yourself in trying to strive for perfection. And then, you know, for me, it was that plus bandwidth. And for most of these companies, you know, they try to strive for perfection in what they're creating, but they also don't have a lot of bandwidth. For example, you know, Raven Software, they came in and they had this big conversation with creators at the beginning of the year. We're going to put a big focus on Warzone. And then Call of Duty came to them and they're like, hey, we need you to do this. 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 You're going to have to split your focus for all your people and put you on this and this. And it just ended up screwing everything up for Warzone. And Warzone is in a tough situation because Raven was very focused on getting stuff done, and then they were told they had to do the campaign. They got to focus on Avalon. They got to focus on this, that, and the other thing. So a lot of these companies, you know, you look at something like Fortnite, like he said, you know, you hop into the menu, you've got all these different things that you can do. They added Lego Fortnite. They made this whole like Fortnite universe. The reason that ends up not doing as well is because you spread your audience too thin and you spread yourself too thin. So you've got to focus on all these different things and make sure everything works. So if you have tens of thousands of people working for you, each team is going to have to work on each little individual detail to make sure everything works. So you just start spreading yourself way too thin, and that's not something you want to see. You want to have something that does one thing and it does it really, really good. And then you add just one more thing and one more thing, and make sure that you continue going with that. But you got to recognize when that bandwidth is completely gone.
But I saw that their recent update kind of blew a lot of expectations out of the water. It kind of was reminiscent of an old school Fortnite update. And if you didn't play back then, they were just crushing it. The updates were great. It was new content. There was a story behind everything. And I know it sounds crazy because it is a battle royale, but
and story is very important because story allows for spectacle, right? Without story, you can't have spectacle. Without having something that you connect with emotionally, you can't build up to something great. That's why the nuke event in Warzone was so important, is because they had all those storyline elements that stacked up month over month over month over month over month, that when the nuke happened, we knew it was coming, but it was such a big deal. I think, if I'm not wrong, Godzilla versus King Kong and the nuke videos are the most watched Warzone videos ever. So to be clear, story is important, and making those connections for the audience to get emotionally attached to things like this is so important when it comes to driving audience and driving views and driving attention. And that's what Call of Duty is definitely missing, is like good story. That's why the campaign being dog shit this year is a very, very bad thing. And multiplayer is going to fail because of it. Well, amongst other things. I mean, multiplayer is good, but the past few years make it feel like a DLC, right? So it's just tough.
There was so many things, the cube, and listen, I got Fortnite knowledge. I just don't really have anywhere to talk about it with, but hopefully it will help today. So I saw that I think it was chapter 7, and let's start off by this, man. It was chapter 6, and then it was chapter 7. How they did that, where it was the 6-7 meme is crazy, and their chapters changed from 6 to 7. I don't know how they managed to do that. They just always seem to understand the culture. But what they did with this update was introduce so many new things. It almost feels like every time Fortnite comes out with a new season, they somehow introduce something new. I don't understand it. This game has now been out for 8 years. I guess coming up on 9, because it came out in 2017, at least the Battle Royale version. And this past chapter that just came out, I think Friday or something, introduced self-revive. So like, just like Warzone has, when you go down, if you have this, I think attached or something, it takes a couple seconds and then you self-revive and then you're good to go. It has like a self-revive car where your teammates can like throw you into the car and it will revive you as you drive away. And then they introduce ragdoll physics. So like when you go down, you're like spinning, or you can like spin. I don't know if that makes.
Yeah, again, a lot of this comes down to the engine that they have. So when you're looking at Fortnite versus Call of Duty, Fortnite has this great engine that they've, mastered and built out to be able to do things like this. Call of Duty has this engine where they want to make sure that PS4 can play so that they can maximize the number of players instead of focusing on being able to build something better for the future. So when we see this coming year with Modern Warfare 4, the engine getting updated, I've heard good and bad things, like the engine maybe better, the game itself maybe bad. Like that's kind of the thing that we're looking at this coming year. That's the exact reason that we got Avalon, is because with the new engine, they're killing everything up to that point. I mean, they're obviously still going to have to, do a certain amount for those games, update them at least a little bit to keep them like active in some way, but they go through their yearly cycle every single year. The difference is in this case, it's a big jump on the engine to get rid of old gen hardware. So it's going to allow for some cool things, but we don't know what those things are just yet. But that's the reason that you see Fortnite able to do what they're doing, is simply because they have built their engine to do the things like
there'll
this.
There'll be a visual cue on the screen, but it's just like another way to get away from the action and get away from the fight. And it's just unique, fun, and they're always trying to innovate. And then obviously there's one more thing that I don't think has been put into the game yet, but it's been pretty much leaked, that Fortnite's going to be getting a gulag just like Warzone, and you're going to go into this, I guess, area where you gulag another person, and in this time it's not a gunfight, it's rock paper scissors best of 3. So I don't know how that's going to work or what the style is of that is, but I just think
that is actually super interesting. Instead of like having them fight it out, you just Rochambeau it up there.
It's like fun, and I love that they're doing it. Now, the funny thing with this is the person where it's going to tie into Call of Duty here is very soon. The person that is in charge of this whole Battle Royale scene now is a developer named Ted Timmons.
And you know what? Ted left Warzone. He left Warzone to go here. The dude that had all the ideas left the damn game to go to Fortnite, and Fortnite's doing the best season they've got ever going. What the man? Y'all gonna lose the dude that's crushing it over at Call of Duty to Epic Games. Ugh.
Shout out to Ted. I actually met him at COD Next.
Incredible guy. Every time, you see that guy saying something, you just know that he gets it. Like that's the thing. He's like the one dude that I felt like at Call of Duty that you'd see him and it was like he got what people actually wanted.
And the reason that I met him at COD Next is because he was a Warzone developer. So he was developing and I guess leading Warzone when it was like the MW3 era, the new one, when they had to redo all of what MW2 caused, and really was a decent era of Call of Duty, or in Warzone era, and in multiplayer as well, because he was like trying to innovate and do things and recover and kind of get this ship back to where it was back in MW19. And I think that that's funny how he then left Call of Duty, I think about a year ago now, went to Fortnite, and has come in.
He left Call of Duty right after the introduction of Verdansk. It was literally like right after. Because I remember we had the call, and he was there, and he was one of the people that spoke quite a bit. And I've not been getting invited to calls for over a year now, so it's just. Damn, you know? So it's been March, so he's probably been over there for like 8 months.
There and just
7 months.
Cooked. Done a bunch of stuff. Done, you know, it seems like they've just allowed him to kind of have some creative freedom and go, hey man, what do we need? What do we need for a refresh here? And
I love that, because what they did is they like pulled someone that like led the industry for Battle Royale at the time from Warzone, right? Like Warzone at a point was absolutely crushing it, and we can thank Ted for that. And then, you know, Warzone's in the dumps because Activision has like made it go into the dumps because of the constant switch in identity, and there's only so much this guy can do to keep it in line. And so Epic Games sees that and they're like, fuck it, let's bring him. Let's take him. Great opportunity to refresh our game. Like, that makes a ton of sense. That's actually incredibly smart.
He's brought a lot of Warzone things into Fortnite, and it's probably going to make it a better experience. Now, another thing, what I mentioned with Arc Raiders here is, this is a very small thing. Okay, it's a very small thing, but I saw the roadmap. I don't play a lot of Arc Raiders. I get the popularity. I get what's going on. I did play it on the second channel, Tdawg 2. Had a good time. I don't see myself going into the game every single day.
Yeah, I think Arc Raiders is one of those things that I love watching. I will absolutely pull up the burnt peanut and watch that dude scream at people and have wars in the game. I'm not an extraction shooter kind of guy. I didn't love DMZ. I've never been able to get into like Tarkov or anything like that. It's not my vibe, but I absolutely get the hype. Like, it builds story, and that's something that I really, really do love. It's just not my kind of thing, because that's not like my goal. I like the competitive nature of battle royales, and while extraction shooters have that and it's very tactical and stuff like that, it's just not my cup of tea.
Extracting, blah, 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 blah. Extraction shooters just solely, they really aren't for me. So I can see why people love it, and that's a great thing. That really has nothing to do with this video, but the part of the Arc Raiders content map that I saw was that they were gonna introduce snow on the map. Okay, snow on the map during December. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, unless you're maybe living in California, but it makes sense to somebody who lives in Maryland. Wow, it's cold outside. The map's gonna have snow on it. It makes it feel like you're immersion. The immersion of the game feels like what's going on outside. And I just feel like that's such a small thing, but it's such a massive.
This is one of those things that we've been asking for from Call of Duty for years. In Blackout, they actually introduced some seasonal updates, and it made the game super fresh, super fresh. And then they just stopped all of a sudden. But those seasonal updates are so very important to keep the game fresh. And seeing them drop this freaking Rebirth update in February is stupid. It is so dumb. Why would you make the map snowy to refresh it in February? I get that you like have to trickle all of this content, but I just cannot fathom like why this would happen. Because when we're at COD Next, they say, oh, you know what? We're doing this. And it's like, motherfucker, has it been done? How long has this been done? How long you been sitting on this? Are you fine-tuning stuff? Drop it. There, like, whenever we went to COD Next, bro, like, I expected these two POIs. I was like, oh, you guys should be dropping a new POI update every month. Every month there should be a new POI update. Every 2 weeks realistically would be great. But it does not make sense to me that it takes them this long. How can someone hop into Battlefield, go into the portal that they have in Battlefield, and someone that has no idea what they're doing, how can they create whole maps? How can they do that? And we have whole ass development teams that can't give us fucking POI updates. I cannot fathom it. I get that it's a different engine. I get that. But you're telling me one dude can hop into Battlefield and in 24 to 48 hours build out this crazy ass thing. And then we got Raven and High Noon and Beanox that can't add POI updates to make the map fresh? What? What are we doing? You can't give me snow, dog? Oh, well, actually, the issue with snow is because what ends up happening, the frames actually dip a little bit, and it's like, how bad is the engine for this game that we can't put snow on the ground? Was the grass that important? Is the grass so vital that we have no idea how snow can go on the ground? There should be, like, you know what? Before they ever release anything, they should be like, all right, so what are we going to do for the seasonal updates? All right, so around this time, let's go ahead and put snow on the ground for like a month. Okay, around this time, let's move the sun's angle a little bit, and let's have, you know, maybe it drops down like some leaves and shit. Maybe we get rid of the birds and we kind of change the way that the map looks to where it looks a little cold before it gets into the snow. Like, why can we not do this? What happened to the like spring updates? What happened to like in Blackout they had freaking snowmen and shit? Why has this stuff changed to where we can't get stuff like this? Why is no one communicating that this stuff isn't possible for X, Y, and Z? I don't know why we are where we're at with Call of Duty. It has to be gross negligence at the highest capacity at Activision. I cannot fathom anything other than that, knowing that there's so many other games with so many less people working there that can do so much more. It just feels like there's no excuse. And I get, you know, armchair developer. I fully grasp that. I fully grasp that. But there are things that do not take away from the identity that Call of Duty has that can be added in. And there's no reason that we should be taking 6 months to make a decision on what's it going to be. We should be able to, before the game comes out, have a whole, like, snow layer. Just do a fucking millimeter of snow on the ground, and all of a sudden, the map looks different, bro. Like, I don't know.
A big thing. Because I wrote down in my notes here, I think we've been asking for a snow map from Warzone since Warzone came out. And what happened with Warzone? 2025, the Warzone's been a thing for 5 years now. We are getting some snow on Rebirth Island. Yeah. But it's in season 2, not February. In season 1. Now, season 1 comes out in a couple days. Season 2, what's that gonna?
You know what, by the way? Like, what did they even add? Like, did they change anything on Rebirth Island? It's literally just snow on the ground. Is that it? Like, I don't see a single thing that looks different. Like, I'm looking throughout the whole map, and I mean, I guess they changed this. This is a little bit better, but I don't really see anything else. I don't play a lot of Rebirth though, so.
Gonna be February, March, maybe? I don't know. I don't know was it 90 days or something like that?
It's like 60.
I don't mean to be mean, but maybe I am being a little mean. I don't think anybody's gonna care in March.
Correct.
That we get a snow rebirth. How long is it gonna be snow for? A month? By then it's April. The flowers are blooming, everybody's happy, we wanna see the sun again.
And you know what? They're gonna leave snow Rebirth for the rest of the life cycle of Rebirth.
And then we're gonna have snow on the map. So I just feel like they're just a little bit behind when it comes to these updates and staying current. And I have on my second half of my notes where I'm starting to think, and correct me if I'm wrong and let me know what you guys think in the comments, maybe it's not the developers. Maybe the developers are not the people we should have issues with. Maybe it is solely Activision. Now I know
Brother, I've been saying this for like 4 years. The only developers I have a bone to pick with are Infinity Ward. Everybody else, I really don't care. I like Infinity Ward just consistently like has a vision that kind of kills the way that things run and makes the game worse overall whenever it comes to the way it feels. Like they get like grounded. They understand grounded, but what they don't get is feel for some reason. I don't know. After Modern Warfare 2019, it got really bad with every time they try to produce something. It just felt wrong. But every other time, like, I don't really have an issue with the developers in any other studios. It seems like they do just fine. I think a lot of it just comes down to the timing that they have on a lot of these collaborations, or, you know, like the timing that they have with other, like a lot of it is probably just like we have to trickle content. Like they have to get content to slowly trickle throughout the year so that it feels like they're filling in the gaps, so that we can just like slowly get little peaks of people coming back. But I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think anyone knows unless you're in like the boardroom.
Activision doesn't have a good rep or anything like that. It's not like this is something, this is not a groundbreaking statement by me that we should be a little upset with Activision. But I think sometimes for a lot of the case here, we get frustrated with the devs because they can't do this, or they won't do this, or they're doing this instead of that. And maybe it's because they have their hands tied behind their back.
They do. There's been numerous times where they've said we can't help it, like we are not allowed.
By Activision. Or maybe it's just one hand tied behind the back. And for an example that I kind of thought about, if you didn't know this, it's been pretty much confirmed, pretty much leaked out there that Sledgehammer, who has made Modern Warfare 3, Vanguard, COD World War II, they wanted to make Advanced Warfare 2.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
Wanted to make that game. I don't know how it would have been received, but they wanted to make that where Vanguard was. And I'm assuming they probably wanted to make that where Modern Warfare 3 was as well, but both times Activision said, no, here's the...
You know, it's actually interesting. I think Vanguard was... So between the last like version of Warzone, Urzikstan, and Verdansk again, I actually went back and I played a lot of the old Call of Duties, and the one that was received the worst, like got the least amount of views, was Call of Duty Vanguard. I think a lot of that is because people just forget that it existed. It was just not good. It wasn't optimized well. It didn't run well. It didn't look good. It didn't play good. The whole thing just kind of sucked. It was not good. And that sucks because Sledgehammer crushes it. They're like super duper good at what they do. Like they can get the feel of Call of Duty just the same as like Raven can in a lot of these situations. So I don't really know why they decided Vanguard over, I mean, I guess Advanced Warfare 2 would have been jetpacks, and people probably weren't ready for all that yet, so they were like, no, we gotta do boots on the ground. But they probably could have done an Advanced Warfare 2, and they probably could have gotten rid of the jetpacks. They could have explained it in the campaign, like, oh, you know what, we've had this big worldwide EMP or some bullshit like that, and then they could have made it make sense. Because they had like Kevin Spacey and shit in that, like before the allegations. So they probably could have gotten away with it and cut off the jetpacks, or just like added like the wall bounce maneuver or whatever, and that would have been fine.
Plan, you're going to make a World War II shooter because people want that, and you're going to make a Modern Warfare 3 game because people like modern games.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like Activision won't let these people cook, and they're just continuing to make the same games over and over again. When we talk about Call of Duty,
a lot of this comes down to like that specific thing. A lot of it comes down to the fact that like Activision's like a public facing company, right? So and Activision being one of the biggest game developers on the planet, you know, they've got this slow like profit line that always goes up, or at least like revenue line. So what they do is they try and go as positive as they physically can, because with them being a public company, it all comes down to like stockholders. And so they need to show that they're growing every single year. So it ends up being a question of how can we monetize instead of how can we make the game fun. And that question is what's causing so many issues with these games. The reason that they're not good is because, oh, well, how can we add a like, is this going to allow us to monetize better? For example, there was this thing where it was like, hey, you know, and I think it just turned into the like copy this person's class thing. But there was a time where on screen, whenever you got a kill cam, it'd be like, they were using this blueprint. Do you want to buy it? Press square to wish list. And that's crazy to me. That's crazy, but it's one of those things where it's like, we've got so many different features that we could add that would add to the game, but instead we have this like wish list feature. I don't think that ever made it into like full production or whatever, but it's weird to see that like pop up as like a test, because it just shows that they're trying to monetize every step of the way. I mean, we have Black Cell, we have Battle Pass, we have, what is it, like Vault Editions and shit like that. Like we have every step of the way. We have microtransactions every week or like every other day sometimes. Before Black Ops 7 dropped, we were getting literally every other day a new bundle. We were trying to make like bundle videos and try and find something that was like decent to like make videos on, but it's all just slop, dude. It's all just slop. All these bundles are terrible. They put it on the worst weapons. None of it makes any sense. I don't even know what the point is of these bundles whenever they're putting it on bad weapons, like stuff that they're not actively making good. In my personal opinion, what they should be doing with these bundles is they make bundles specific for each mode. Like you should have, or at the very least, for the love of God, just make it where you can change the attachments and the gun looks the same. Like have a little checkbox like you can on COD Mobile to where the gun can look the same or the gun can change depending on whether or not you want the attachments to make the gun look different. I don't get it. It's like they have so many opportunities to fix these things, and it's like they refuse to do it just, I don't know, out of spite. But it is all coming down to the fact that their goal is monetization and putting full focus on monetization instead of fun. And I think Treyarch's trying to fight back against that because they're recognizing that they need to change the matchmaking system. But we're not going to make it there anytime soon. I think I talked about this in the last video where I kind of went over what Jay Guy was talking about. It's going to take 4 years. We're going to have 4 years of Call of Duty trying to claw back people because they lost the trust that they built up over the like COD 4 to MW19 era. They slowly, year over year, lost trust from the player base to where they finally gave up when Battlefield 6 dropped. And the people that left for Battlefield 6, while they may not have stayed on Battlefield 6, they never came back to Call of Duty. That is a statistic that they've been able to see, is that the players just never came back to Call of Duty because Call of Duty is not trustworthy. They do not trust the game. And the reason why is because they've constantly hid things from the people playing the game. They constantly lie about things. They constantly leave out bits of information. Like there was a time where it was like, oh, well, we found out that skill-based matchmaking taking out skill from the matchmaking system does not make players come back at a higher rate than having skill in the matchmaking. And that sounds like, the way that they phrased it makes it sound like having skill as a parameter in the matchmaking system causes people to come back at a higher rate. That is not what the fuck they said. They just said not having it didn't make them come back at a higher rate. That was something that was in the white pages whenever they released it. And it was like, wait a damn minute. So you're telling me that you phrased this a specific way to make sure that people couldn't recognize that what you're doing isn't better. It just monetizes better. The whole thing, a lot of what they do is just strictly monetization. And that full focus on that monetization, that's the issue. That's been the issue. I talked about this in 2019. I was very, very vocal about it, that the way that they monetize is going to cause issues over time. The full focus on monetization instead of the fun factor is going to cause issues. And that's why skill-based matchmaking, while it isn't as big of a deal as people make it out to seem, it is a problem because it is a showcase of Call of Duty not giving a shit about the experience players have, but rather trying to force retention, which no one wants to feel like the outcome of what they're playing was chosen for them. That's, at the end of the day, it's all about the fact that Call of Duty has just lost trust. That's it.
Fatigue, it's because we're getting Black Ops and Modern Warfare rotated over and over again. I've said it in other videos recently. We're on Black Ops 7, and if the next Call of Duty is Modern Warfare, it's going to be Modern Warfare 7. We don't need to be in Modern Warfare 7 and Black Ops 7. We don't. So it almost feels like Activision needs to, I guess, let go of the grip of we're gonna make this game, and I think you gotta let these developers cook a lot more, because it obviously shows when these developers go away and go to other games, they are doing a phenomenal job. You can tell Fortnite has no restrictions on Ted Timmons. This guy came from Warzone, went to Fortnite, started cooking. And I mean, even, I know Arc Raiders doesn't have anybody from COD, I don't think. But even then, you can tell that these developers are they're just trying stuff. And that's when I think, that's when opportunity and greatness happens, when you're allowing these people to just do stuff. I mean, even with Mark Rubin, who made the golden age of CODs, you know, he made X Defiant with a separate group of people. And you might have your opinions on X Defiant as a game, but there's no like, I feel like, to me, argument that the game itself wasn't good. They just launched it terribly. They didn't give us content, and they released it in Modern Warfare 3 when Call of Duty fixed all their problems. If they would have released it during MW2, you better.
It was supposed to drop way earlier. They kept having issues with, if I'm not wrong, like, I think it was like PlayStation. Somebody was not allowing them to publish it, and they wanted to go live, but since they couldn't publish it, they were stuck trying to fix things repeatedly, and it took them like 6 months. And so during that 6-month period, Call of Duty fixed all this shit. So no one had a reason to go to X Defiant. And then they reset it, ironically, so X Defiant just ends up dying like unnecessarily. Plus Ubisoft, I mean, they're just known to do shit like that.
You better believe it would have made a dent, just like Arc Raiders is making a dent into Call of Duty this year. So to summarize, I feel like Activision needs to get over themselves a little bit here. Let these developers come and pitch some wacky ideas, because there is creative people in these development teams. There's no secret around it, because when they leave, it feels like they become better. And so how many Call of Duties in my, I'm thinking about this today, is how many Call of Duties have been canned or like adjusted because they won't let them kind of do what they want to do, or just, I mean, I don't know, just, I guess.
I'm going to go the opposite way here. I think it's fine for Call of Duty to find like just an identity. Find the thing that makes them good, right? I think there's a certain amount of like, okay, you can bring your ideas into the game. I think the like double jump in Black Ops 7 is fine. I think 1 or 2 of them would have been better instead of 3. Probably just 1 would have been fine. That adds to it without making it over the top. That's what I told them at COD Next. I think 1 is fine, but going higher than that's a little goofy. I just think that a lot of Call of Duty comes down to identity, but there's ways to keep identity. There's ways to keep the identity while doing collabs, while doing events and things like that. The Call of Duty just hasn't quite figured out, because the thing is they get these events and these collaborations, and they just do whatever they think will make the most money. And again, you don't get spectacle from focusing on money. You don't get community engagement from focusing on money. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles could have gone way better, but they were like, fuck it, we're just going to drop some skins in a small, like, week-long event that did nothing in the game. There was nothing cool about TMNT, and they could have done some cool like storyline shit. And I'm not saying that like that's one that's identity, that's like Call of Duty identity. But what I'm saying is, and I think we're pretty much done with the T-Dog video here. But what I'm saying is Call of Duty's identity could have done things like Scream. You can do these Halloween events. You can do events with like different genres that match, that are like nitty gritty. Like Rambo was great back in Warzone 1. I think that was a good one. I think Die Hard, also very good. They did, Nakatomi Towers. Like that was great. I think they have the opportunity to collab with these things, but for whatever reason, they focus on the ones that they know people are going to buy it just so they can run around being like, look, I've got big titties and an ass. I'm Nicki Minaj. Like that's what I'm saying. I think it's all incredibly dumb because they just do the things that make money. And it, like, the short-term revenue will always cause issues in the long term. If you are not building trust with your audience and doing stuff that feels like the identity of Call of Duty, what that is, and you lose yourself constantly throughout the year, you're just going to make it worse. Now, like, again, you can go a little bit futuristic. I think Black Ops 7 is fine whenever it comes to like being futuristic. But the issue is they lose themselves in the campaign, and now it feels like the game is like stupid futuristic. It doesn't make any sense. Multiplayer was fine. Multiplayer was actually pretty good. And then you go into the campaign and you're like, oh, this is what this is about? This is terrible. Could you imagine going back to yourself where you were having a snipe like, oh, what was it? Like Mason? Do you remember like having to shoot Mason? Was it Mason? Shooting Mason in Call of Duty? You know what I'm talking about? Hold on, I'm going to look it up. Shooting Mason, Black Ops 2, right? Yeah. So do you remember like shooting Mason in Black Ops 2? Could you imagine telling yourself like, dude, you're not going to believe this. You know that girl that sings Super Bass? What if I told you you're going to be able to put a sniper scope all up and down her body in Call of Duty? It's fucking weird, bro. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And I think a lot of that, again, comes down to identity. And there's ways that they can add in these cool things that fit in the identity. And that's exactly what Fortnite's done. That's exactly what we're seeing with this stuff is like Fortnite is like this kind of goofy game. You run around. There's no like real like blood or anything like that. It's not gritty. It's fun. It's like casual. And Call of Duty's casual as well, but it's supposed to be a little more gritty. It's supposed to be a little bit more dark, a little more like harsh. And they could make those things and help it thrive, but they're just too damn slow. And when they do it, it's too little too late. And I'm gonna keep saying that because that is the vibe of Call of Duty this year, is too little too late. But either way, let me know your thoughts in a comment down below. I do want to remind you that the Expel Pro Plus controller is on sale right now for Black Friday. We've got a sale going through, I think, the 15th of $199. Use the code Expel checkout. Plus, you don't have to pay tariffs anymore because they fixed it. You can now go and get your controller, and they have figured out how to pay for the tariffs themselves, which was a problem with UPS, and they have switched to FedEx. But either way, let me know your thoughts in a comment down below, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.